sure.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I think that in your campaign earlier for DA in Queens County, you really brought to the table a lot of these issues that you're talking about and really put a great spotlight on some of these marginalized communities, which you've spoken of. Obviously, you focused a lot on issues like ending the mass incarceration and having Rikers Island closed down and the decriminalization of sex work. And these were, just really bold leftist issues that you brought to the forefront in New York City, earning you endorsements from people like AOC and Bernie Sanders, and even the New York Times got in on it. What lessons did you take away from that run? And also, what kind of lessons that you learned may you be applying to your current run for city council? And what do you hope to accomplish there if you're elected?
Yeah, that's a whole lot in one question. I learned a lot, and I'm not even quite sure where to begin. We could get all up in our fields, and I can talk to you about how personally I learned a lot, how the experience was one of immense growth, but also traumatizing, and it took time to heal from that. But on a professional level, I was a first-time candidate, didn't know my ass from my elbow in terms of electoral work, right? I'm an organizer, but in outside organizing spaces, I grew up in a family much like the ones that we were centering and fighting for in the campaign, and that we're fighting for now, and that we experience systemic barriers to civic engagement and political empowerment. And so delusionment was there, but a perfect storm of circumstances made me feel like this was the right thing to do at the right time. And it grew into something really beautiful and powerful that I think did some good work. And this run now, I think, is about building on that. Certainly what I learned along the way is how to more effectively coalition build, honing skills in co-governance, but also the electoral apparatus, right? I went on after my campaign, didn't know what I was going to do, just kept thinking about the fact that we got so close. And
60 votes, if I'm not mistaken, right?
55 votes, which, by the way, because obviously I'm not counting or anything, but it comes out to 0.06 of 1%. Ooh. That was the difference. 601%. So also, folks, when people say your vote matters, it really, really fucking matters.
Especially in city council races and down ballot races.
Yeah. Yes. And in my mind too, right? These are the most important races, right? We can all say how we were super disappointed at the top of our ticket at the end of the day, right? As leftists, as just progressives, Joe Biden, yes, we're glad that Donald Trump was voted out, but Joe Biden wasn't our guy. And the only way that we get to a place where our person is at the top of the presidential ticket, the only way that we get that is by building a bench, right? And that starts at the hyper local level for sure.
Oh yeah, so I just think that that's a really important note, and you've talked about how the city council run is the progression of your DA run, and obviously over the summer we saw a tremendous outpouring of support across the nation in the demanding justice for Black lives, and demanding justice for not just for George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, but for the countless other victims of police violence across this country, and demanding change. And one of the primary ways that the left has advocated for doing so is by defunding the police department and reallocating those funds to the communities that actually need them, so that instead of broken window policing, which has taken place in New York City probably to more detriment than anywhere in the entire country, we're actually investing in our community and giving people resources to thrive and succeed, instead of just resulting to draconian punitive punishment. And at the city council level, especially in a place like New York, there's a lot of movement that can be done there. In Kansas City, where Gavin and I are based out of, our city councils basically got their hands tied. All of the power over policing is in Jefferson City. It's not in at the local level, whereas in a place like New York City, if I'm not mistaken, you guys have a lot of room to work there. So I just wondered if you could talk a bit about that and what your strategy would be.
Yeah. So to back it up just a little bit, right? It is the continuation of the work in the DA race, and the city council is where the work is, exactly for the reasons that you talked about, right? This is about getting the best public health and public safety outcomes while dismantling a system of racialized capitalism, period. And there are all these different strategies that have to be in play at once. But looking at the different strategies, one of the most powerful is taking over our municipal governments, precisely because they fund our police and they don't fund anything else. Like, you look at New York City, you've got an over $6 billion police budget, right? Like, more than the military budgets of armies across our globe. And we're spending pennies on the dollar in comparison on schools, on hospitals. You think about it, and it's honestly the reason why I ended up running. Folks ask me to run all the time for different things after my saying, no, I think I'm doing the work that I need to do. And when the pandemic hit, and when we had this international uprising against the murder of Black folks by the hands of the police, I was still getting asked, and that's when the answer changed, because here we were, right? And we had protesters out in the street marching against police violence in defense of Black lives, and they were met with more police violence, literally taking batons and rubber bullets to their body, pepper spray to their eyes, all in full view, while we had a city council at the same time that was gutting the funding for our hospitals. And doctors and nurses were on the street literally begging for PPE, right? And who is in control?
But don't worry, Cuomo's going to get an Emmy.
What's that?
I just said, don't worry, Cuomo's going to get an Emmy.
Oh gosh, yeah, and writing a book in the middle of a pandemic. Yeah. Don't even get me started. Well, and then we also have the dynamic between our governor and